Yo, ever wondered why some guys walk into a room and instantly flip a switch inside every woman? A recent global study dropped a truth bomb most men aren't ready for. It uncovered the 3 exact types of men that consistently ignite the deepest levels of female desire. And no, it's not about looks, money, or smooth talk. It's about behavioral triggers, primal instincts, and the unfiltered science behind what actually drives attraction on a biological level. If you've ever felt like you were doing everything right but still getting nowhere, chances are you're missing this. What you're about to hear might challenge your beliefs, but once you understand it, you'll never see male-female dynamics the same way again. If this message hits something inside you, share it forward. Like, comment, and pass it on to a brother who might need this more than he knows. Let's grow together. These 3 male archetypes aren't guesses. They're backed by data, built on patterns, and rooted in science. Let's dive deep and break them down. The 3 male archetypes that trigger the deepest desire in women, according to science. There's something magnetic about certain men, not the loudest in the room, not necessarily the richest or the most handsome, yet women react to them instinctively. It's like their presence flips a switch, and suddenly attention locks on them. Ever seen that happen? There's science behind it. And it's not magic, it's patterns. Predictable, repeatable behavioral triggers that most men ignore. The truth is, female desire is deeply connected to primal instincts, not polite gestures or wishful thinking. And once you see the pattern, it's game over for guessing. Most guys spend their lives trying to become what they think women want, but the data, real data, tells a different story. Across cultures, backgrounds, and time, 3 core male archetypes keep showing up in women's private fantasies, longings, and even secrets they don't tell anyone. These archetypes trigger desire on a level words can't reach, and once you understand them, you'll stop chasing and start attracting. This is where self-mastery starts. Not by pretending to be someone else, but by activating what's already buried inside you. It's not about being nice or getting her flowers every Friday. The men who light that fire inside a woman, they're not playing safe. They walk in boldness, anchored in their masculine frame, and radiate inner strength without saying a word. That's the part no one teaches you. The silence speaks. These men don't ask for permission to be attractive. They're unapologetic about who they are. And whether they're speaking or just leaning back, the room bends to their presence. Why? Because they operate from a deep emotional control most men never reach. Think about this. Why do some women stay in relationships with men who aren't textbook good guys? Why do they ignore the safe choice and run toward danger? It's not random. It's rooted in primal instincts that override logic. That doesn't mean you need to become a villain, but you do need to understand how attraction works beyond the surface. The first mistake men make is trying to be liked. But the men who get chosen, they play a different game. And that game starts with understanding power dynamics. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The first type of man women deeply crave isn't the perfect boyfriend. It's the one who knows how to make her feel something she can't explain. He disrupts her rhythm. He's not always available, but he's unforgettable. That's the mystery element, and it's not an act. It's a byproduct of strategic silence and not oversharing. This man creates space for tension to build. And tension? That's the fuel of sexual polarity. Without it, desire dies. Fast. You can be good, but if you're not dangerous, you're forgettable. Let's make something clear. You don't need to become a manipulative player to be desired, but you do need to stop being overly predictable. Predictability kills attraction. The reason why certain men are remembered long after they're gone is because they awakened something dormant. They weren't afraid to lead, tease, walk away, or stay silent. They showed discipline, not desperation. And most importantly, they made her feel seen, not in a way that begged for validation, but in a way that activated her instincts. That's high-value behavior. There's a reason you're still watching or listening right now. A part of you recognizes these truths, but maybe you've never had anyone explain them this way. The second archetype we'll uncover is even more triggering than the first. But to embody it, you'll need to shed everything you were told was nice. This man doesn't seek approval. He commands respect with his silence, his presence, his moves. Women lean in without knowing why. It's not manipulation. It's the art of being rooted in silent authority, a trait modern men rarely master. She doesn't consciously think, I want a man with silent authority. But her body reacts before her brain has time to label it. That's the edge you're here to discover. The second type of man doesn't compete. He's not triggered easily. He's carved from discipline and built his identity in private. He doesn't need to dominate conversations because his confidence speaks first. This man walks like the world bends for him, not because he's arrogant, but because he's done the internal work most men are too distracted to begin. Let's take a second to talk about something uncomfortable. Rejection. Most men fear it. But the men who live inside the second archetype don't fear rejection. They welcome it. Why? Because they've already rejected anything that doesn't align with their self-mastery. That's what gives them their edge. They don't lose sleep over who texts back. They're too busy building, and that tension between accessibility and dominance creates an irresistible pull. She doesn't know why she keeps checking her phone for him. She just does. Now picture this. A man walks into a room, doesn't say a word, but people move. Women glance twice. Men either shrink or adjust their posture. That's not charisma. That's status built from years of micro-decisions, discipline when it was easier to slack, silence when others overspoke, holding frame when emotions ran high. That's the result of living with inner strength and rejecting mediocrity. This man doesn't need to impress anyone. And ironically, that's exactly why everyone wants to be near him. He became high value by not chasing it. Let me tell you something that'll sting a little. A lot of what you were taught about women is wrong. Not because it was evil, but because it was incomplete. No one taught you about sexual polarity, primal instincts, or how subtle behaviors create deep female desire. You were taught to be agreeable, polite, always available, and that's why most good guys get ghosted. Meanwhile, the men who understand power dynamics are quietly shaping their realities. And no, you don't need to hurt anyone to access this. You just need clarity. Here's where it gets powerful. The men who awaken a woman's deepest longing often share one unteachable trait: mystery. Not the kind you fake, but the kind that comes from a man who knows who he is and doesn't feel the need to explain it. He's lived. He's made mistakes. He owns his past and doesn't flinch. And because of that, she can't quite figure him out. That's the key. The more predictable you are, the faster desire fades. The more unspoken signals you carry, the deeper she sinks. Think of strategic silence like a weapon. Not the kind that harms, but the kind that commands space. Most men rush to fill silence. These men use it. They don't flinch when the moment goes quiet. That pause, that's where the tension builds. That's where her thoughts run wild. And in those thoughts, desire is born. This is a forgotten art. In a world addicted to constant noise and validation, the man who remains unbothered becomes a mystery. And mystery, my friend, is magnetic, especially when combined with boldness. There was a man once, let's call him Mason. Average job, average looks, nothing Hollywood about him. But women were drawn to him like bees to honey. Why? He mastered emotional control. He never overshared. He asked questions, listened deeply, and never broke frame, even when tested. Women couldn't figure him out. And that curiosity, it became obsession. One woman even said, "He made me feel like I was constantly auditioning for him." Mason wasn't rude. He was grounded. That's the dark triad energy, subtly tuned, not toxic, but potent. Now let's crack open the third type, the one that triggers a woman's desire in a way that borders on devotion. This man isn't loud or flashy. In fact, he often goes unnoticed by those who only see surface value. But the moment a woman interacts with him, her world tilts. Why? Because he understands behavioral triggers that go underneath the words. His eye contact lingers just enough. His touch is intentional. His presence calibrates like sonar. That's not accident. It's alpha traits in motion, refined through self-mastery and lived experience. Each of these archetypes shares one thing in common. They don't try. They embody. You can't fake this energy. It leaks through your walk, your tone, the way you set boundaries without flinching. And women feel it. You can't convince a woman to desire you, but you can become the kind of man who naturally activates her deepest urges through masculine frame and unapologetic presence. And when you combine that with social proof and the ability to stay rooted under pressure, you don't chase. You choose. That's the difference. And here, let's hit pause real quick, because if this is striking a nerve, if your gut's telling you this is the knowledge I've been needing, don't sit on it. Smash that like button right now, drop a comment, and hit subscribe. Because this isn't surface level advice, this is rewiring. The kind of rewiring that builds boldness, unlocks inner strength, and upgrades your life with insights most men never hear. And trust me, the next thing I'm about to share, it changes everything. This is where it gets dangerous. In a good way. The third archetype often surprises people. He doesn't fit the typical mold. He's not trying to be alpha, he just is. He doesn't bark orders, but when he speaks, it cuts through the noise. This man carries silent authority, earned through self-respect, failure, and evolution. He doesn't perform for others. He observes. He listens. And when he moves, it's with purpose. This calm precision triggers a different kind of response in women. Not just curiosity, not just excitement, but a desire to be chosen because he doesn't hand that out easily. Here's the twist. Most men never develop this archetype because they're too busy trying to be liked. But this man, he's okay being misunderstood. He doesn't flinch when others doubt him. That groundedness creates what I call quiet tension. It's an unexplainable pull women feel when a man is fully present, yet emotionally untouchable. He offers power dynamics without needing to dominate. That subtle edge is why women chase him long after the conversation ends, and that chase is driven by something they can't quite put into words. Let me make this practical for a second. If you want to start tapping into this third archetype, start with these actions. Begin saying less in moments where you'd normally over-explain. Pause before you respond. Practice eye contact without the need to smile. Rebuild your emotional control through breathwork or cold exposure training. Study dark triad traits, not to become toxic, but to sharpen your edge. When done with intention, these habits rewire how others perceive you. You become the mystery. You become the story they retell. And here's a visual that might help. Imagine walking into a room and not needing to look around. You feel the energy before anyone speaks. You sit down, and without forcing a smile or raising your voice, people adjust their posture. That's not fantasy. That's the result of living in boldness, backed by discipline. It's a vibe that can't be bought or copied. It's built, slowly, through decisions you make daily when no one's watching, through walking away when others cling, through not needing to explain yourself all the time. Let me take you back to Mason, the guy we talked about earlier. One day, a woman he had met only twice flew across the country just to spend a weekend with him. When asked why, she said, "I couldn't stop thinking about the way he made me feel, like I had to prove myself to him." That wasn't arrogance, that was strategic silence, confidence, and zero neediness. Mason understood something most men don't. You can create a vacuum so powerful with your presence that it pulls people in effortlessly. Now imagine applying this to your life, not just dating. Picture walking into business meetings, family gatherings, or even casual environments and knowing that your high-value presence shifts the room. That's not just for special men. It's for those who cultivate their edge and drop the performance. It's for men who develop self-mastery, not through ego, but through awareness. You want to build attraction? Stop trying to impress. Start becoming a man who no longer needs to. That's where the real status begins. Quiet, earned, permanent. But let's address the resistance that might be creeping in right now. Maybe a voice in your head is saying, "But I'm not like those guys." That voice? That's the conditioning. That's years of watered-down masculinity talking. You don't have to become someone else. You have to uncover what's already there, the alpha traits you've buried to be accepted. Women aren't waiting for perfection. They're craving presence, depth, edges. And when a man walks in fully owning who he is, that's when female desire becomes a magnet, not a mystery. So, how do you know if you're activating this energy or just pretending? Simple. Look at how people respond to you, not what they say, but how they shift. Do women lean in, or do they dominate the space? Do your words carry weight, or do they get brushed off? The truth is, unspoken signals tell the real story. You don't need to scream power to have it, but you do need to radiate inner strength. And that only happens when you stop performing and start integrating who you truly are. Here's a powerful shift. Instead of trying to win her over, ask yourself, does she qualify for my attention? That mental switch changes everything. You begin filtering based on alignment, not desperation. That alone increases your status. When a woman senses you have standards, and not just a pulse, her perception shifts. Suddenly, she sees you not as a man trying to get her, but as a man she doesn't want to lose. That's sexual polarity in action. And the man who masters it, he never chases, he selects. And let's not confuse calm with weak. The most dominant men are often the quietest ones in the room. They observe, process, then strike with precision. They're not trying to fill every silence with words. They let others overplay. Then they move, intentionally. You want to build confidence? Start by learning to sit with discomfort. Learn to breathe through awkward moments. Learn to own tension. These are the muscles that shape your masculine frame. And when that frame is solid, everything else aligns around it, including her interest. In practical terms, this means stop oversharing. Mystery matters. Not in a manipulative way, but in a way that respects the power dynamics of attraction. Keep some things to yourself. Let her wonder. Let her ask. That sense of primal instinct kicks in when a woman isn't sure she has you yet. And no, this isn't about being cold, it's about being centered. The man who holds back just enough creates space for curiosity to grow. And that curiosity, that's where attraction lives and breathes. There's a moment, usually unspoken, when a woman decides he's different. It rarely happens during a speech. It happens during a pause, a gesture, a gaze held just 1 second longer than usual. And in that pause, she feels it. This man isn't like the rest. He carries something ancient, something grounded. That moment is created by 1,000 micro-choices rooted in discipline, shaped by emotional control, and driven by self-mastery. You don't need to become a myth. You just need to live with more intentionality than the average man. Start doing small things that send big signals. Enter a room and slow down. Make deliberate eye contact. Be the last to speak in group settings. Speak less, but make each word count. These are habits of men who embody silent authority. And women? They pick up on this immediately. They feel the shift. They can't always explain it, but it creates a gravitational pull that words can't fake. Your voice becomes deeper. Your presence becomes weightier. And suddenly, you're not just another option. You're the experience. But all of this only works if it's real. You can't fake your way through presence. You have to become it. That's why this isn't about tactics. It's about transformation, building high value from the inside out. That's the long game. That's the path few choose, because it takes courage. But the reward? It's not just in how women see you. It's in how you see yourself. That's what makes a man unshakable. That's what makes him rare. And that rarity is what triggers the deepest levels of female desire. Here's the truth no one tells you. Women don't fall in love with what they understand. They fall for what they feel. Logic doesn't create longing. Primal instincts do. And if your presence doesn't activate something deeper than her checklist, you'll be seen, but not remembered. You want to be remembered? Be unpredictable in a grounded way. Be unapologetic about your standards. Speak less and move with boldness. The men who trigger long-term desire are not always the loudest. They're the ones she can't stop thinking about when the room is quiet. Think of your masculine energy like a radio signal. If it's full of noise, no one tunes in. But when it's clean, focused, still, strong, it cuts through. That's what social proof feels like. It's not about followers or fame. It's about the invisible credibility people sense when you enter a space. That credibility gets built in silence, in discipline, in choices no one sees. And when a woman feels that frequency, her subconscious recognizes status, confidence, and dominance before her mind ever catches up. At the end of the day, the three archetypes aren't about becoming someone else. They're about returning to what's been buried under layers of doubt and noise. Male archetypes are not costumes, they're codes, and once you unlock them, you'll start to feel a shift, not just in how women respond, but in how the world mirrors back your energy. And the real reward? You'll no longer need validation. That freedom, that clarity, is what makes you dangerous in all the right ways. Then that's the beginning of self-mastery. Somewhere deep inside, you've already met these versions of yourself. The quiet one who observes more than he speaks. The bold one who walks into a room without asking permission. The grounded one who commands presence by simply being. They're all there, waiting for you to stop asking and start choosing. Because once you stop chasing approval and start living with intention, discipline, and strategic silence, you don't just become attractive, you become inevitable. Now tell me this, which version of yourself have you been hiding? And what would change if you finally let him lead? Have you been the man who pleases or the man who pulls? Drop it in the comments. No more hiding. Let me know you're here. Let me know you're ready. And hey, thank you, seriously, for staying till the end, for opening your mind, and for taking one step closer to the man you were built to be. If this message hit deep, do me one favor, like this video, share it with someone who needs it more than you know, and subscribe so we can keep this momentum alive. Click that bell icon too, because what's coming next, you won't want to miss.